Yeah. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the program. It's your boy, the head of the Corona. We got another episode of Comedians in Quarantine for you guys tonight. Tonight, we're talking with Dr. Kevin Fitzgerald, comedian and veterinarian, Dr. Kevin Fitzgerald, about his time as the head bouncer, or I guess head of security for the Rolling Stones for several years. I mean, he was bouncing for like 25 years. He also worked with the Wu-Tang Clan. Pretty fantastic. Also, he's a veterinarian, and he has done a lot for the community of animals and a lot of research on saving endangered species. Real interesting stuff. So we're going to talk to him about that here in a little bit. Before we get going, big thanks to our sponsors who sponsor the show right there below us. These are our local and sponsors to Colorado. There we got Big Top Studios. Where are we at? There we go. Big Top Studios, Terrapin Care Station, Pearl Street, motherfucking Dental, and of course Tommy Knocker Brewing in Pilsner. Cal, thanks for being a part of the show. How's everybody faring so far? Doing okay? I hope everyone's doing okay. We got about 6 more weeks of this shit left, so don't. I'm gonna run out of people if I keep trying to do this every day. So, but yeah, things are going okay. We're doing a digital Boulder comedy show now every Sunday night on Twitch, so that's pretty dope. Excited to just kind of be adapting with the times of now, and yeah, it's gonna be a bit wild. So buckle in. Thanks for tuning in. I hope you enjoy it. My clip for today is it's a clip from my Boulder comedy show, the live one, and I was hosting the show. I think I was hosting the show. No, I was not hosting the show. I was just doing a spot, and this lady was heckling me, and it wasn't like a bad heckle, but she was like she was interacting is what she was, which isn't the best, but it wasn't a bad interaction. Now, she eventually came on stage. I don't want to say she charged the stage, but she came on the stage, and that's when the camera started rolling. I had audio kind of leading up to it, but it didn't really, if you get this explanation that I have here, then it's definitely all you need there. It's fascinating. I say that a lot. I say fascinating a lot. I get fascinated a lot. I don't know if it's because I'm dim, or if it's just because I have been living in a fucking house for 2.5 weeks, and a lot of things are fascinating to me. But it's funny when people come up on stage. We don't. I fucking hate it. And the number one rule is you never give up your mic. Now, this particular time, I knew that this lady was she was harmless. All right. She wasn't gonna blow up the show that much. But she just straight up took the mic out of my hand, and everything ended up really fun and really great. And I'm so glad. This is when you're lucky that you have multiple people pulling out cameras and starting to shoot everything. So, it's fucking nuts, but I hope you enjoy it. This is me. This is this summer. As you can tell, I'm wearing shorts. This is this past year. So, fun video. Did really great for me on Instagram. Not so great for me on YouTube, but whatever. Hope you enjoy it. Watch this clip. Boulder Comedy Show live. If you are in Boulder, Colorado, the show happens every single Sunday at 7 and 9:15 in the back of the Bohemian Beer Garden when there is no quarantine. So make sure you come back in May when we are just in time for our 7-year anniversary. So, all right, everybody, here it is. Enjoy the show. We'll see you in a little bit. He's going to spank me!
Your dreams, I'm going to spank.
Hell yeah. I would like that. I would absolutely like that. Well, now that we're up here, what are you thinking right now? See, it's hard once the lights get in your eyes, isn't it? You go,
I think you picked the wrong. I was a pregnant, unmarried Catholic youth minister from Notre Dame.
Okay, hold on. cheerleader at
No,
Notre Dame.
not cheerleader.
Well, you could have
That was too much.
Oh, that was
The rest is true. So what I'm thinking is, it is an honor and a privilege to be here with young people that are telling the truth and having a great time.
That's true. What is your name?
Do you want my complete name?
No, I would like your stage name. She's like, no, you cannot. Is that your daughter? Is that the one you were pregnant with?
Right here.
Who is that?
Come on up here.
That's my closer, everybody! Wow, that was crazy. Oh, fuck, that was so fun. The Boulder Comedy Show, it gets wild over there sometimes, and we can't wait to be back. If you are watching this and you haven't seen our Twitch stream during the on our Sunday show at 7 o'clock, 6 o'clock Pacific time. Make sure that you check it out. It's a fantastic. It's one of the best. It's one of the best online digital comedy shows that you can ask for, because online comedy is tough, but they do it really well. So, all right, everybody, let's get Dr. Kev on the line. We'll get him teed up here, and we'll go. We'll go from there. Let's see. Okay, cool. Yep, he should be good. Okay, cool. Let's get him on the horn, and we'll be right back. Hang on. I tell you, yeah, go ahead. Technology's a bitch.
What if I hang up and do it and get you on again?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. All right.
Yep. All right. Welcome. What's up, everybody? What's up, Corona crew? Welcome to the show. Hey, we got a good one today. Dr. Kevin Fitzgerald is calling in right now. Let's get at him. Come on. Dr. Kev.
There you are.
All right, you see me. Let's see if I can see you. Up, there's your feet.
Okay, now what did I do?
So if you touch your screen, you should be able to see the like the little switch, it looks like there it is.
There we are.
There you go. But now you're going to have to wipe this lens clean, because I assume this is your FaceTime lens. So on your screen, just wipe the top part right there so it can, wipe that part. Yeah, give it a good lick. It's like you're licking an apple. There we go.
Oh, I see what's wrong.
It might not.
I got a broken screen up there.
Oh, well, that definitely does something to it.
Yeah, that's what's wrong.
That'll do something to it.
Okay.
All right, cool.
That's probably as good as I'm gonna get.
That's fine with me. Let me turn off these notifications. Good. All right. Got a broken screen. What'd you do to your phone, Doc?
Dropped it.
Did you?
Yeah.
Did you drop it in the toilet?
No. No.
That'll be perfect right there. Well, thank you again for joining us. Welcome to the show, Doc.
We're on.
Glasses on or off? I'm gonna edit all this, and we're gonna cut it into a live stream section here in a little bit. Um, but but you're gonna have to look at the camera.
You betcha. There we go. There we go.
You're getting the glasses clean. You're getting the phone clean. This is just a whole Corona cleaning day for you.
Right, buddy.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us. This, of course, is Dr. Kevin Fitzgerald, the one, the only Dr. Kevin Fitzgerald.
Except no substitutes.
Except no substitutes, unless they're a little French bulldog. Which is funny that people are naming their animals after you. Probably one.
Yeah, it's weird. It's weird. It's a compliment. It's a compliment, and people sure love their animals.
Yes, they do, and they sure love their veterinarians. That's for sure.
we're getting a lot of calls about animals with this virus.
Can animals get coronavirus?
Well, let's put that to rest, okay?
Yeah.
At present, there's no evidence that this virus can be spread by animals.
Oh.
Currently, the most we know that this virus is transmitted human to human. But that doesn't mean that you just normal precautions you shouldn't always take, like washing your hands with soap and water after you handle any animal. Because there's a lot of other diseases they can get. But, if we look at this, we need facts, not fear. And what are the facts? And so I think people shouldn't panic. That's the main thing.
Oh, everyone's freaking out right now. Like, literally, it seems like it is all because I'm seeing so much stuff. I'll get messages from people in different states sending me like links to different articles and stuff like that. And I'm like, I don't even know which ones of these are real. Like, someone sent me a link to a website called insider.com. And I'm like, this doesn't sound legitimate. And so it just feels like there's so much fake information or misinformation out there.
Well, we didn't know. We weren't ready. We didn't know. And how do you ever get ready for something like this?
Sure.
I think there's a great book that your people that are watching your podcast or listen to your podcast should get called The Great Influenza. Won the Pulitzer Prize in 2004. About the 1918 flu. And, the 1918 flu, went around the world quickly. They didn't have antibiotics. So a lot of these flus, cause a high fever and end up with pneumonia. So we saw a huge number of deaths worldwide. The regular flu every year, there's about a 0.5%, my New England Journal of Medicine says death rate, but this one that's coming through is a 1 to 1.5% death rate. So, the elderly are at risk, and people with upper respiratory things to begin with COPD and asthma, and diabetes, being overweight, these things don't help, and I think, it can affect the youth too. So I think nobody's immune to it. You got to be cool. What people are doing is called, the distancing, the social distancing. But what that is really classic herd health that we do in veterinary medicine. So you isolate the healthy, you separate the sick, you test and identify new sick, you stop the introduction of new individuals into the herd, and by doing this, you break the train of you break the chain or the chain of transmission of the virus, animal to animal, person to person. So this one is spread, by the fomites, the things that, little pieces of saliva or mucus, by coughing. And it can, and touching is another one. So washing your hand and not touching your face is so huge.
So you're basically saying that what the government's doing to us is effectively basically doing what veterinarians do to animals.
It's basic herd health, herd management. What we're going to get eventually, is that enough people will have had the virus that that will help us a little bit, so and then also there'll be a vaccine. But I talked to a friend of mine at the CDC, and he said that not to hold your breath about when the vaccine would come.
Right.
With the testing that has to be done, vaccines have to be two things. They have to be safe and they have to be effective.
Sure.
I'm not religious, but as a veterinarian, every day when I get up, I say, please God, don't let me hurt anybody. So we give medications that have side effects, and I think we have to be, we have to be cool. We have to we have to be honest. We have to be honest. And,
right.
And I can't always help animals, but I can sure hurt them by doing the wrong thing.
That's fair.
And so I think, yeah, please God, don't let me hurt anybody. So the vaccine has to be safe and has to be effective, but so there has to be tests run, and they can kind of fast track it. But the other part is just the manufacturing and transport to get. This is going to take hundreds of millions of units, to get that out. So
now I read this no, I didn't read shit, but I saw this show, this Netflix show called Pandemic. I don't know if you've heard Pandemic of that episode. Here's what's frustrating about it. I've been saying it on the show for weeks, but that the very first episode basically will piss you off in this coronavirus pandemic, because basically what they've been saying is they knew this shit was happening for years, or they knew that this was going to come, and they knew that we were unprepared, and they still did nothing about it. This documentary fucking released in January, and then nothing, they didn't do anything about it. They didn't get, they didn't beef up the hospitals or whatever. That is what it is. But one thing that was interesting that they were following a company that is trying to create a end-all be-all flu vaccine, right? So, you take one vaccine and it kills all, or it makes you immune, if you will, to all influenza. They said that they have found success in pigs with a 7-shot system, but no one wants to do 7 shots. Have you heard about this? And if you haven't, what are your first thoughts on it?
Well, you said so many things there. Let's deal with them one at a time. Let's do some basic biology, okay?
Yep.
And so, what are viruses? Well, viruses are very different than other one-celled microorganisms. Okay, the microorganisms we typically think of that can cause disease are bacteria, protozoans, the fungi. And so those things, they have RNA and DNA, and they have cellular parts that give them cellular machinery so they can metabolize and be alive. Okay, so the viruses are either RNA or DNA, not both, and they don't have any cellular machinery. So outside of a living cell, outside of a living organism, so animals are just groups of cells. We're all just a big bag of cells. So if we think of what a virus is, it's a piece of genetic material that outside a living organism is inert. It can stay that way indefinitely. Sometimes
so
it
can stay alive, but not affecting anything for several years.
It can stay I don't know if I say alive. It can stay infectious.
Okay. All right. Fair enough.
So then when it gets into a living cell, so it's got, viruses only have 2 phases. Then they've got this inert stage waiting for their host,
like a catalyst, if you will.
Right, a host. And then once they get into a living cell, then it's infectious, and they turn on, that genetic material turns on and kind of captures that cell and causes that cell to produce more viruses.
Oh.
So that's how they work. That's how they work. And then it can cause, if it's a respiratory system, it can cause damage and it can cause cellular damage, and then the normal bacteria can be opportunistic and cause pneumonia or whatever you're dealing with. So,
Interesting.
so that's how it works. So they're different. It's a piece of material that's genetic material that's infectious, and then it you know they're very difficult to grow in cell media, and they're not killed by antibiotics, and then they're infectious. They're infectious. So they can be really contagious. This one, this COVID it's pretty contagious, and it's aggressive once it gets in.
It, how is this so much different, or like, where did this come from? Obviously it came from China, we hear, but I just have a hard time believing that this was just discovered last year. In my opinion, I feel like this has been around.
That's a good point. That's a great point. But it could be new. That when they say a novel virus, novel just means new. So let's look at these things. What happens is, particularly viruses, the genetic material it's really lends itself well to mutation. So it mutates, and so like we have flu in dogs now. We have influenza in dogs. Never did
Really?
before. Never did before 2003, 2004.
Did humans give this to them?
Where you identified flu in racing greyhounds in Florida, and then it went all throughout the country. And we looked at it, and it was an equine flu. It was a horse flu that mutated and then got into dogs.
Holy
and then
shit.
It mutated again, so there was a second form. So now we got a good vaccine for both forms of canine influenza. Okay?
Wow.
So, but if you look,
Wow.
you're young and I'm old.
I mean, I look old with this hat off, but yeah.
These new diseases are happening all the time. Okay, since I got out of veterinary school, parvovirus, a horrible, devastating disease of dogs, it was new. Legionnaire's disease. Okay, AIDS, West Nile, SARS, swine flu. So these diseases are out there, and they mutate, and they're constantly looking for a new host. And so the genetic material in these guys is very lends itself well to mutation. What happened in 1918 is the 1918 flu came through, and so what happens is you have now 7.8 billion people on the planet, and nobody has an immunity to this thing. So what a great palette for this thing to paint on. And so what we see is
That's so Bob Ross of you.
so we see 7.8 billion people, nobody immune, and a brand new virus. So it runs right through the population. I think what we'll see with this one is we'll get a vaccine. We'll start to see people that have had it. If you had it, you're immune for a little while, probably not for your whole life. You can catch the flu again. But this one, it causes in the elderly or the people that succumb to it a severe acute respiratory distress. Okay,
right. That's what I've been hearing.
And so it's bad, and caused by a pneumonia. We don't have great antiviral drugs yet, and I think this will stimulate people to work even more. Let's look at where it came from. Talking to my friend from the Center for Disease Control and looking at the New England Journal of Medicine papers, it looks like this one came from bats. The genetic material looks like the bat flu.
That's what people are saying.
And then it jumps from exposure, and so I think a lot of my friends think that this is not the big one. But the big one's coming. And if you think of a disease like the 1918 pandemic, where 1 out of 4 Americans got it, and I remember, my friends the McConaughey's have the funeral home here in Denver.
Yeah.
I remember old Joe McConaughey when I was little saying the 1918 flu, they were dying so fast that at the funeral home they didn't have enough coolers, and they had to put people out in bags in the snow. So it's tough. And the other thing is, how do you get ready for this? We have less than 1 million hospital beds in the United States. Okay, less than 1 million, and so I thought Denver. you just kind of assume, oh man, there's thousands of beds, and there's not. We probably got under 5,000 beds in Denver. So if there is a
Whoa.
catastrophe or disaster, are we ready? Are we ready for something like that? And the other thing is, when the focus is the hospital, in the flu, the majority of the doctors and nurses at Denver General in 1918 immediately got the flu, and many died. So then they told people, don't send people to the hospital, keep them home, because it was so contagious going to the hospital.
Wow. Which is basically
But
what we're finding now. It's so contagious that now is the influenza of 2018, is that a different flu than what we have now? Like
right,
just a
there's
regular
mutations
flu.
all the time. There's Hong Kong flu, what they call Hong Kong flu, and they called the 1918 flu the Spanish flu, but it looks like it might have originated in Kansas. They fight about where it originated, but it might have, maybe France,
Okay.
but they think that it probably started in Kansas. So that's mandatory reading, the Great Influenza. See, there's a lot of, with something like this, it's okay to have your own opinions, but not your own facts. And
Yep.
and
Yep.
and people, the problem with being young is you think you're bulletproof, and I'm old, and I'm here to tell you that nobody's. When I worked for the Rolling Stones, Keith used to say nobody's hip forever, and
I mean, he certainly is making it a long time.
he's made it, but I mean, look at me. I wish my hair was still black.
You could dye it black like he does.
Yeah, then I'd look, holy cow, I look like a vampire.
I would love black hair and a gray mustache.
I don't know, man. I don't know. So here's what we have to think. I think as a veterinarian, many of the diseases are animal origin, and particularly we worry. My friends that are virologists, they worry about birds, and particularly migratory birds that might overwinter and spend the warm months in China. Then when it turns winter there, go south, go to Africa or to Europe, and some of these birds go thousands and thousands of miles. The other part of the problem is we're such a global community. Like I shake hands with you on Sunday night in Boulder at the Boulder Comedy Show, and then we have guests in from New York, and guest comics in from other places.
Right.
People in the audience have come
Right.
to visit their kids. They're from San Diego, and then you grab the microphone, and the guy from New York has been exposed to somebody from a cruise ship, and then the next. So we're such a global population that it really lends itself well to transmitting these diseases.
Damn. Wow. So basically, you said that if we get the disease, we're going to be immune to it for a little bit. Is that kind of the concept behind the flu shot? You inject a little bit of a flu, and then you don't, and then you're immune to it. Is that kind of the thought process behind the flu shot?
What you do with vaccines is you inject a deactivated portion of it, so you make antibodies against that, so your body recognizes it when it comes. So with this one, if you get it, you have a little bit of immunity for a while. We don't think long term that you could catch it again. But what most of the experts are saying, and looking at the paper I was reading this morning in New England Journal of Medicine, it looks like this one is going to enter the normal cycle of viruses that hit every flu season. And we have a definite flu season, as the colder months start.
Right. They say that the virus can't live in warm weather. That seems ridiculous to me. Like,
well, these viruses can be killed by two things, by ultraviolet light and by bleaches. Okay, and so
which is why people are drinking bleach right now. Is that?
Yeah, it's not great. It's not great. So, but if we look at the southern hemisphere, it's summer in Australia, and Tom Hanks is there, and he got it there. So that's people still get flu in the summertime, but it's not the big waves that we see during flu season.
Gotcha. So your friends are saying that this is not the big one, that this is just a temporary scare, basically.
If we see one that is really, really virulent, and this one is more virulent than our regular flus have been coming through, the ones we've been seeing and we're used to. But if there's one that doesn't target just the immunocompromised, if there's one that's an equal opportunity infector, okay, and I think it's very wrongheaded to assign blame, like they're calling this. President Trump called it the foreign virus,
Right.
and he called it the Chinese flu.
Right.
This thing, it doesn't have, it doesn't recognize boundaries, and it doesn't have a nationality,
Wow.
and it doesn't have a political party, and it's a pretty equal opportunity infector, but it looks like the elderly and the immunocompromised are the ones that are the most affected.
Gotcha. So going back to that study I saw, the they basically said pigs have a similar immune system to us, and that they have found when they infect pigs with influenza that this 7-round shot is like an end all be all vaccine. What do you think about that?
I'd love to tell you that we'd get a shot that protects us and immunizes us against all viruses, but these viruses are mutating all the time, and different species can get, like rabies can affect any mammal. So rabies is a virus, of course, okay, and it can that's why we worry. That's one of the zoonotic diseases. Zoonotic diseases are a zoonosis is a disease that animals can give to people, or vice versa. So they're
Oh,
diseases that we share with people,
okay.
that we share with animals. The disease is shared by animals and people, rather. We have a good way to say it. So rabies can affect any mammal. Ferrets, we developed the flu vaccine in ferrets because they get human influenza. Okay,
Really?
and so distemper for dogs, a horrible disease, but raccoons can get it. Also, cheetah and lions, dogs in Africa have given the virus is now in the lions there. So we've been trying to immunize lions to protect them, against distemper.
How are we discovering that ferrets can get human influenza, that horse flu mutated into dog flu? How are we discovering this stuff? How do we who's out there like, you know what? Let's check this ferret for human flu. Like, that just seems like such a out of the box
Well,
thought
no, well,
process.
think of it. Think of it. You've got a ferret that comes down with something, and it's a respiratory disease and maybe GI too, and you take a little bit of the tissues, or you maybe do a biopsy, or you do at autopsy or necropsy, you take some tissues to the pathologist, and you look and you think, wow, the damage done to these cells looks like looks virus, and then you isolate the virus. So
Interesting.
it's thank God we have people still studying these things, and what I think is you're going to see a big birth in the interest, a big growth in interest for young people in studying, public health and public medicine and vaccines and epidemiology and the spread of diseases, because it's one world now. It's one world and it's one health, and that what we'll see is that I think animals can share many of these diseases, and we need to pay attention. We need to. It's no longer what happens in Ireland that doesn't affect the United States. What happens everywhere is it's a global community now.
Hmm.
One world.
Yeah, of course. Just like Delta, the one world. Okay. Now, so you don't think then that it's possible to create a vaccine that can wipe it all out, because they're always evolving. The best we can do is make one vaccine for everything we've seen thus far. Obviously.
I think it'd be tough. I mean, it's a great goal,
Yeah.
but I think, you know, the other thing is, thankfully, a lot of these diseases are species specific. You know, parvovirus that kills dogs, it doesn't affect, you know, we have our own parvoviruses, but not that one.
So
Um,
couldn't we have contact with an animal and not wash our hands and then eat, and then that virus gets in us, and couldn't that then mutate into something that could affect us now that it's in a host? It's not
well,
not
I mean, yeah, that's possible. Mutations always happen, and you're constantly being bombarded from the outside. But thankfully, our immune systems are such that, you know, most of the time it protects you. So that, you know, I mean, we know, you and I know people that are really germaphobes. A lot of the comics and stuff that are crazy and won't touch anybody or shake
right,
hands.
right.
But you know, in a natural situation, you know, your immune system is up to snuff and can quash that. Now, older people, as you get older, you have a diminished immune system, and that's how we see cancers arise. Probably cancer cells are probably always starting in your body, but a normal immune system kicks it out. But as you get older, you know, they get a foothold.
Interesting. Now, my theory on not doing flu shots is that I microdose enough germs in airports across the country that I feel like I get just a little bit of everything, and therefore my immune system is top notch. Is that a ridiculous thought or not?
You probably do get exposed. You get exposed to a lot of things, but a flu shot's a good idea for as much as you travel.
You think so?
Yeah, I do. You know, I see 30 to 35 people every day in the practice. You know, and they shake hands or they touch it. Probably shaking hands is a thing of the past. You might see the elbow bump or a head nod, or the namaste, hands together like a Buddhist. You know,
Right,
you may
right.
see those things be the new kind of greeting. But it may be that this thing has killed shaking hands for all time.
Wow.
You know, when people shook hands, you know, they extended their hand to show there wasn't a weapon in it, you know, and that's how shaking hands started. But
Oh.
I think that you know, you want to show respect, and one of my biggest pet peeves, you know, beside the little stickers on fruit, is, is one of my pet peeves is when yeah, you know, they just got rid of the death penalty here, yeah, the Governor Polis, but I still think whoever invented
Fruit
the little
stickers.
sticker on fruit deserves a death penalty, because those damn things, I can't get them off,
They're
and my eyes
impossible.
are old, and you know, I inject the tape, the paste, and the paper, but uh, uh you know, if we look at I don't even know where I was going. I put the joke in there.
You
I
were
don't even
talking
know.
about how we got rid of the death penalty, how you hate stickers on fruit, and before that we were talking about um, the not taking the flu shot because I'm microdosing germs in the
Oh, no, I know
airport.
what I was going to say. You know, it's the death of the handshake. What I was going to say is, what I hate the most, besides people besides the sticker on the fruit, are people that, you know, you're walking and you smile at somebody or you nod, and they're staring at you to begin with. So to stop the stare, you nod or you know, show respect or acknowledge them, and then they still don't look at you. You know, so I just, God Almighty, you know, it's just, what is wrong with people?
I can't wait to see million and billion dollar business deals going down with a fist bump. Just like, all right, we have a deal, we got a deal. Like, I just feel like that's gonna be such a weird way to do business now without a handshake. Because a handshake is so, you learn a lot about a person with their handshake.
That's
And
right. Or you know, you go to prostitutes and you pay more if they'll shake hands.
I pay them more if they shake other things. The um so we're not going to in your opinion and in your friends' opinions, we're not going to have a vaccine for a while. And on top of that, this still isn't the big one. We still have another one coming in. So,
Well, we don't know. We don't know. I mean, there's new diseases all the time. You know, and some are big deals and some aren't. You know, but I mean, but the potential, what we see in other populations of animals, is when they get so crowded, as human populations are, I mean, you're from Colorado. I mean, I grew up here. The traffic is incredible.
Right.
Denver was a little cow town. It wasn't a big place.
Oh
It
yeah.
wasn't a major city by any means. And so what we've seen is the explosion of the population of the United States. It doubled in the last century, and then it doubled again, and then it doubled again. So the population of the United States doubled 3 times between 1900 and 2000.
Wow.
And so, if we think that if 1/8 of the people were ever alive are alive today, in the history of people,
Wow.
and so many people are young, I think that our biggest problem is there's so many of us, and for the first time in the history of the planet, people have made humans are a biological force, that like locust or something. I mean, it's something that we have to deal with, and we have to learn, how to do better. It's a problem.
Don't you think this is nature's way of trying to cull the herd a little bit, though? Thin the
Well,
herd?
that's fine unless you're one of the ones called.
Of course, but I mean, like the planet can't keep up with us. We're going too fast. You know what I mean? And
Well, the planet can keep up. I think, in terms of water, we're going to run out of water, fresh water, before we run out of oil. And so, we're already seeing that with the states fighting each other about water rights, and the poor farmers dealing with things.
Sure.
And so I think that the planet will be fine. It'll shake us off like fleas off a dog, and then go back to being this wonderful blue and green, marble spinning through. But I think that what we have to decide as a species is, do we love life on Earth and love the planet enough to save it? And I think we do. I think we do. People are pessimistic, but I'm optimistic, because when I talk to young people and I go to schools, I mean, they get it. They get the ideas about recycling and different things. And so, I think that there's a lot that people can do. Particularly the way we eat. I think that we have to pay particular attention to trying to use local products and local farms and stuff to utilize things in our area, so we don't have to have a lot of plastic and shipping and all the things that we do.
But capitalism is going to ruin that, though. Capitalism is going to rule everything, and therefore we won't be able to, like, I feel like the lobbyists that will push against local farms, against local business, whatever. I feel like that is gonna fuck it all up. Everyone's too greedy.
Well, greed is certainly an issue.
Because it's the next generation.
I think,
it's the generation after me. That's
much is enough. But I think that if you think, you have to have rewards for your work. So if you have to say that. So but capitalism is to the extreme. Like, how much do you need? And if we're gonna do this, I think it has to be, conservation has to be taught. And so I think the best thing to do is to work with the young. Children are natural naturalists. They're natural biologists. My little nieces, they could tell you every dinosaur. They knew the names of all their dinosaurs, and they were 3 or 4 years old.
Wow.
And they could, that's a triceratops. And you go, how the hell did you know that? You're 3 years old. So I think taking kids to museums, and taking them on a hike, going to places. The best thing a kid can do is get exposed to more and more things, and make them. Maybe they won't go into biology, but they'll have a respect for life. And you remember, going fishing with your grandfather or something. I remember my grandfather gave me a pair of binoculars, and it was amazing. All of a sudden, the lizard on the fence far away became a dinosaur. It was
Right.
great.
Right.
And so I think we have a responsibility to the young. I remember my old grandfather buying me a pair of binoculars. So, we can elect, we can look for good uh, politicians whose platforms support local farms and stuff, and uh, but I think it goes more than that. We have to somehow escape the political part of it. you
Mm-hmm.
know
Mm-hmm.
but I think reducing our own use of being conscious of electrical use, or how much gas you use, and trying to ride a bicycle. um, I think if we look at saving water, it can make a huge difference. Leaky faucets, and reusing containers is a great thing. Like they're trying to do at the stores. I think that's great. Um, Upgrading, your utensils. You know, I think recycling paper. I mean, if
Yeah.
we think of how much paper we use in the United States,
Yeah.
it's ridiculous. Using less hot water, planting trees. I think is a great thing. I've been involved with a couple of tree planting things. I started a thing on Saturday mornings in my neighborhood. I walk Miss Thompson, and we go 6 blocks one way and six the other. And I live on University, so we pick up trash on University. So I was on this guy's lawn, and I was picking up the trash up near the street. It's a busy street. And the old guy came out, and he's got boxer shorts on. He's just gotten up. He goes, "What are you doing on my lawn?" And I said, "I'm picking up trash." And he goes, "What?" And I go, "I live up the street from your neighbor, and I need exercise, so I walk with my dog and I pick up trash." He goes, "Hang on, I'll put my pants on, get my dog. I'll come with you."
Oh wow.
And so
Okay.
now I got him and two other old ladies, and they come and wake me up every Saturday morning. So we do a trash walk, and so I think that's no big deal, but it's making our little side of the street better.
Sure. Every
So
little
but
bit counts.
but we're not, we're not. I think discarding of things, right. Particularly styrofoam. Styrofoam is dreadful.
God,
A
that stuff is
styrofoam
a
cup,
cancer
a
on the
styrofoam
earth.
cup in the ocean takes 400 years to totally dissolve, and so getting it to the right uh, places so it can be disposed of properly. Same with batteries. Old batteries are really toxic, and so I mean, people can do a lot. I raise bees and have beehives, and I
Currently?
like honey, and so the problems that the pollinators are in trouble. 130 of the foods that you eat are pollinated by bees. So I think that plus honey is a wonderful food. It's a food that is manufactured by nature and harvested by insects. It's a what I'd like people to think though is that we're not helpless. Okay, and we can do things. I think that you know most fruits and vegetables in the United States travel 1,500 miles to get to the people. So let's use local people. Let's use local farms.
Yeah. Is
And
it
and
true that they've been like with bees, they've been sending bees around on 18 wheelers from farm to farm to go, like they'll take these hives or these
no, exactly right. 95% of almonds come from California. 95% of almonds, and so they travel. The beekeepers lend their hives to go. Most nuts are from bees. Okay,
oh
many.
wow.
So if you ever eat nuts, they're pollinated by bees, and so they send their bees and they travel. But when they travel, they feed them these different foods, and many are just sugary types of things, like corn syrup, and so it's not healthy for the bees. But the problem with the bees, they thought it was cell phones, and then they thought it was this and thought it was that.
Yeah.
But the real problem are the different pesticides that persist for so long in the environment.
Oh.
and they're so little, and they're so social. They work together. If I watch my bees, there's no slackers. Everybody's working, and so it's they teach me a lot watching them.
So we've discovered it's the pesticides that we spray on these trees and stuff like that. That's what's fucking these bees up. Not
Exactly.
Wi-Fi, not cell phones, not any of that stuff.
No, which was cell phones. There was something you could do. Replacing light bulbs and using the right thing. Using natural lighting in your house rather than artificial lighting. But the modern dishwasher, old ones. I think those are the types of things. But I think using and rewarding businesses that are eco-friendly with tax breaks. It'd be a great thing. And so there's so many things that could be done that we need to do. The average office worker goes through 10,000 sheets of paper, per year. And so recycling and using printing on both sides of the paper.
Right.
So many things. So
Right.
many things.
Right.
And getting involved. I think whatever you do, just get involved. That's the main thing.
Well, and that's been the story of your life, is staying involved. You know what I mean? Like, we're kind of working your life backwards at this point, but you saw issues in the animal world, and then you moved backwards in it. Now you work with the Denver Zoo, and kind of like half of your life or a quarter of your life, it seems like you're out there trying to make a difference, trying to save endangered species, trying to, like, get educated and educate others. Is that why you got into this? Did you see how fucked stuff was going to be? And then you're like, all right, well, someone's got to do something about it, or we're going to lose these golden vultures or whatever they're called.
Yeah. Well, it's like a minute to midnight, with conservation, and there's still, like I said, there's still a lot that could be done. The Denver Zoo, I got involved. I was always against zoos. I thought, animals in cages, but I got to know the keepers. My boss, Dr. Taylor, did a lot of the surgery at the zoo, and I realized the keepers were really devoted to the animals that they cared for. I mean, crazy, and just like family members,
Mm-hmm.
and so they're really inspirational. And then I realized that more children visit the Denver Zoo every year than adults go to the Avalanche, the Nuggets, the Rockies, and the Broncos combined. So even though a kid might not go on an eco tour, inner city kid or an impoverished kid might not go to an eco tour with his parents. He goes to the zoo and he sees these animals, and his little mind gets turned on, and that's where it's at. So the Denver Zoo bought 187,000 acres, helped the Mongolians in Mongolia buy 187,000 acres, and helped give it back to the Mongolians as one of their first national parks. And then we've been helping with the endangered species in the park. They picked it because of where it was and the number of species that were there. So I've been lucky enough to go to Mongolia 12 times to the zoo and help with radio transmitters with endangered species. And we're just doing a project I'm really proud of now with Adaptation Services here in Denver. They located a place that I knew about. We have the wonderful western painted turtle here in Colorado, and they're threatened.
The western painted turtle.
And yeah, you look them up. They're gorgeous. The color underneath, God's paintbrush. These brilliant reds.
All right, I'm gonna look this up right now.
And so, but they're being displaced by the red-eared sliders, the turtles that people had. The little dime store turtle when I was little. So they're from the Midwest. So it was too cold here before, but now with the warming, people throw these little turtles, the red-eared sliders, they don't want anymore, and they put them into ponds, and they outcompete for food and for nesting sites and for basking sites are the little turtle here. And the turtle here has one clutch per year with 5 eggs, and the other one can have 5 clutches a year with 18 eggs a time. So they're bigger and they're more aggressive. So we found this place where there's a bunch of these population of these turtles, and they uh, a big population of these turtles, and the Cherry Creek Dam was built, and they built a spillway in 1955 in case there was a 100-year flood, but they've never dredged it out. So after 65 years, the detritus and amount of debris down in there, plants and stuff have grown, and snowfall and rain. So there's water in there, and the turtles have just gone crazy. So the Army Corps of Engineers is going to dredge it out right now, and they're going to put in 3 feet of concrete, so the poor turtles will be gone. So
and these are the shitty turtles, the dimes, the little.
no, these are our good ones. This
Oh,
is
the
a
good
population
ones.
of our Colorado turtles.
I'm gonna drop
And
in
so,
a picture of this turtle right now.
yeah, so we got we went in and saved. We've saved 61 of them, and now we're putting radio transmitters on them, re-release them in different places so we learn about them, and doing a salmonella study. So we turn to we save these turtles, and there's a lot of goodness out there too. I think people want to do the right thing.
Damn, these are cool looking turtles.
Oh yeah. So we've also done the rattlesnake study here, since 2000, where we've put in now about 500 radio transmitters into rattlesnakes in Colorado. So we learn about them and how far they range, how long they live, how many babies, who they breed with. So I think people can get involved in these studies in their state or their you can do it locally, or you can do it nationally, or you can do it globally. And there's great things like the Nature Conservancy and the World Wildlife Fund, Polar Bears International. So there's so many things you could get involved with.
Interesting, crazy. So people are just. So this is the painted turtle is native to Colorado, and they're getting fucked up because other people are just releasing their home turtles into the wild.
Right. And it's warm enough now that they can live. We're lucky in that we live in Colorado, and there's great wildlife here. And there's 5 turtles. There's our western painted turtle. There's snapping turtles. We've got the box turtle. And we've got mud turtles, and then we've got soft shells in southern Colorado. So people don't think of this as a great reptile state, but it is. And then we've got so many snakes, bull snakes and rattlesnakes.
Oh, we got shitloads of snakes, yeah.
Garter snakes. And my favorite, the hognose. And so tons of snakes. And if you think of these animals, there's a place for them. No matter how inconspicuous or humble the species is, it's a miracle of evolution to get to where they are, and there's a place for them. I've got bat houses on the side of my house because bats over the course of the summer can eat their own weight in mosquitoes, which I hate.
That's pretty good. Gotta like that. By the way, I'm looking at this hognose turtle right now, and this is fucking hilarious. The hognose snake.
Yeah.
This thing
Gorgeous.
looks so funny.
They're great little guys.
Is it venomous?
No.
Not at all.
They're real gentle, like garter snakes. Garter snakes are rear fang snakes, and they got a mild venom, but the fangs are so far in the back of the mouth that they can't open their mouth enough to get you. So
gotcha.
So garter snakes are pretty good natured, and so I think
they know their place.
Yeah, there's a place for these animals, and so I think so, and then I don't understand many politicians being anti-science right now. It's a crazy time. You're young and I'm old, and when I was a kid, Sputnik was the first thing in 1957. The Russians put it up first. A satellite that circumnavigated, went around the world, and in outer space, and so we were behind, and everybody knew it, and so the nuns would go crazy, and while you're not studying, the Russian kids are learning, and so science became a big thing. And if you look at what's happened with science, our big jumps in learning have been scientific discoveries, like the transistor for the transistor radio. And,
Sure.
If we look at the biggest thing is the internet, what's happened. And so
next big thing is going to be graphene, like how they're splitting up carbon into to flakes.
And so I think, I to be uh, anti science, like I don't understand it, and people are naturally, you know, they don't trust. They're distrustful of scientists, and so it needs the scientific method is a great thing, and it's what happened right now. We were talking about with the testing for these viruses.
Right.
Just we'll come up with a vaccine and we'll test it, and we'll see. You know, so science can't have politics in it. Okay, science has to be objective. Once we get politics and hype injected into science, like with this vaccine or like with this virus, then it stops being science. And so we have to protect against that.
Right. Wow.
One thing that's so sad to me is I thought we were going to talk about comedy. I thought we were going to talk about we've talked now for an hour, and we haven't done one thing about jokes or anything.
Well, this
So
whole show is based off of about basically I go talk to interesting people that I know through comedy or through whatever, and I talk about stuff that other people don't know about. We know you're a comedian. We know you tell jokes. We know you're super funny. But your backstory of protecting endangered species, going to Alaska, I'm sorry, not Alaska, the South Pole, Antarctica, I believe is what it's actually called.
I went to Antarctica, and then also to the Arctic too, to work with polar bears.
To the North Pole. So you've gone to
yeah,
both poles.
So I think I've been lucky, to be a little boy from Denver and get to see some of these things.
What's it like going to the North and South Pole? Because that to me seems like it is just like baffling. It seems it's got to be so quiet and so dark, just so nothing. Like going from a city to just nothing like that. What is that experience like for the first time?
Well, the Arctic and the Antarctic are both magical places, and they're I mean, it's a very strange experience to be out there. In Antarctica, we think that probably only 40,000 people have ever been there, and so people didn't start going there till the 1800s, and it's the last place. It's a forgotten place. In 1952.
Is there actually land there, or is it just an ice
mess? Yes. The South Pole in Antarctica is a continent, and so there's land, and the actual North Pole is just water, and it's surrounded by different continents. But so for the South Pole, it's a place probably about as large as Australia, and we don't even know really how big. And there's a mile of ice on it, And sadly,
like a mile thick or a mile wide?
Mile thick.
Oh, wow.
In some places. So it's an amazing place. I mean, there are mountain peaks. There's 5 peaks over 13,000 feet. So it's a harsh place. It's beautiful, but the Arctic and the Antarctic are harsh places. And to be a little boy from Denver, get to see these places has been so a wonderful gift. A wonderful gift. And the animal life there is so amazing and so specialized. To be a little boy from Denver and see a polar bear up close and personal, or to see these things, it's amazing. I've been so lucky. My life has been like Forrest Gump.
It's crazy. It's crazy.
I've been in the right place at the right time for several things, and I feel bad because I don't know how we started. We talked about science, and we didn't talk about what I thought we would talk about.
We're gonna get there. Don't worry, we're gonna get there.
I'll have to come back.
Oh, you gotta go?
No.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I'll for sure have you back for part 2. But what's gonna happen if these animals in the South Pole go extinct? How is that? How is a penguin going to affect me in America if it's going extinct down there because of global warming and all the ice melt and all that stuff?
Well, we think that right now probably 1 million species are threatened.
Holy shit.
or will be threatened. And so when an animal goes extinct, the world becomes a less interesting place. And we're interconnected. The interconnectedness of this planet, the interweave is you know, look, a mutated bat virus happens in China, and a friend of mine just died in Vail of the virus on Saturday morning. So we're interconnected, and we've neglected it for too long.
Right.
You know, but I think people are waking up, and I think there's enough of us that we can do something.
Yeah.
When a species goes extinct, like I said, no matter how, like my bees, basically we have honeybees in amber that have been trapped in amber 25 million years ago, and they're basically the same as they are now.
Really?
So bees overlapped with honeybees. We got bees from 100 million years ago. Bees overlapped with the dinosaurs, and so they're so specialized. And to think that just within a few generations of people, we could endanger these animals that have been here for millions and millions of years and been successful just because of us.
Yikes.
We've become a biophysical force,
right?
And it's amazing.
How did you get into being a veterinarian? Was this a conscious choice, or like where in your path where you're like, I want to fuck with animals?
Well, I always liked science, and I always liked animals, and I like people. People come to me all the time with their kids, and they say, "Oh, my daughter hates people but loves animals. I think she'd be a great veterinarian." And so I go, well, you got to like people because they pay the freight.
Right? Absolutely.
So I always liked science, and I liked medicine, and I liked animals, and I applied to veterinary school when I graduated from CU, and I didn't get in. I got put on the waiting list, and they said, well, show us you want to do something. So I went to graduate school, and I got a master's and a PhD in endocrinology. And so then...
What is that?
Glands and hormones. And I taught...
Sounds fun.
I taught for a while, got a job at the University of Hawaii. And
this is before you started working with the Rolling Stones?
No, this is
after.
What happened was I worked the door at the sink in Tulagi's in Boulder.
Yep, I remember that.
And Chuck Morris, God bless him, he hired me, and he said, "Look, you get $1.39 an hour,
Jesus Christ,
and I get in a hamburger every."
$1.39.
That was minimum wage.
Oh my God.
Minimum wage. Well, this is 1968.
Still, though, the fact that we've gone to $17 an hour, I was born in 85, but the fact that we've gone to $17 an hour from $1.39 in 40 years, that's crazy. That's a high amount of inflation there. So, all right, so you went to college first at CU, and you were working.
Went to college at CU, and we always did sports that we could bump into people. That's all I could do, I didn't know. I was a swimmer. Swimming's a good sport because you could lay down while you did it. So I went to CU on a swimming scholarship, and so then, but we boxed and played rugby and worked the door at the sink, and the other bouncers then up to Tulagi's. And I like the music. You got to be close to the music. I couldn't play an instrument. I love music though. The music at the time was great. I'd rather sing than eat. Most people would rather hear me eat. and so then from Tulagi's, Chuck Morris became partners with Barry Fay, who had a place in Denver called the Family Dog. So I came down, and Barry started.
Now, if we don't know who these two people are, quick explanation of who Chuck and Barry are.
Chuck Morris was the manager of the Sink and Tulagi's, and now he has worked with Bill Graham and is now the head of AEG.
Gotcha.
With their concerts division. And Barry Fay was a concert promoter here in Denver.
Gotcha.
He did the Denver Pop Festival 3 months before Woodstock.
Oh, wow.
3 nights long with Jimi Hendrix and Creedence Clearwater.
Damn.
And anyone you could think of that was big at the time.
Damn.
And so so they were putting together these concerts. So Chuck came down to be partners with him, and Barry was starting to do these national tours, and then he got to go on tours with different bands, got out with the Rolling Stones and it'd been with them, and so at the end of the 78 tour, he told me, you should go back to school. You should, you could do something with your life. You can't be a bouncer when you're 50. And
you're like, yeah, I can fuck people up at
well, I
50.
don't think they really thought they'd still be playing with their 50. He said, the public's fickle. It's like the flavor of the month, and so, um, we won't be doing this. So why don't you go to school? I'll help you. I'll write you a letter. So he wrote me a letter, and I applied to vet school, and I got in, and then um, I don't know. That letter's probably on the wall somewhere. Every time I see him, he always says he's proud of me. But but the bouncing was fun. You got to I got to do the advance on these tours, and I got to go a day ahead of the band, hire the police and the bouncers in that town, look at the venues, look at the hotel, how we get them from the airport to the hotel, and safely, and yeah.
That's what. So that was most of your job, is like going in early. So you got paid to go hang out with the Rolling Stones and make sure shit was okay.
I didn't hang out with anybody, brother. I was working for them.
Were you?
So I knew what I was. I
How,
wasn't part of the band.
how
But
tough of a job is that?
well, it's as tough as you make it. If you want to do a good job and get asked back, you want it to be safe. I mean, you got 70,000 people in a place, and they're coming in loaded and they're drinking, and a lot can happen. They could stampede. They could. I was lucky though, because when I worked for Barry, we never had festival seating. The kids always had a set ticket, so they're not going to stampede because they know their seat is there.
Oh,
Okay,
okay.
so that way they don't just open the thing and it's like the Oklahoma, land rush or something. It's like, so it's not like people just running for their seats. The only problems I had were when the lights go out, the kids jump down off the sides and go onto the floor and be closer to the stage, and the fire marshals don't like the people in the aisles. And the other thing is, if you can't have the wheelchair kids down on the floor because they get knocked out of the chairs, so you had to put them up and high. And that's sad because they put them all together, which kind of stigmatized them, and
Right.
and it was bad. So, but one thing though, when I worked for the Rolling Stones, Jagger would always ask me at the beginning of the show, "Where are they?" Meaning where are the wheelchair kids? And I'd say they're up in 323. And he'd say, "How many chairs?" And I'd say, "Well, there's 28 chairs." So I'm dating myself, but I'd get 28 cassette tapes and 28 T-shirts, and would take him and hide him with a hoodie or something over his head, and take him through the guts of the place, so nobody saw him. And then he'd jump out at the wheelchair place and he wouldn't stay and talk, but he'd put a T-shirt and a cassette tape on everybody's lap. "Oh, we're glad you came." And
Oh, that's
I was
fucking
always,
cool.
yeah, he didn't do it as a photo op. He didn't do it. He just did it because it was a kindness, and they're good guys. They're good guys, and they're really professional. I learned so much about human nature and about being prepared. By watching them. It's like the army working for them. I remember Bobby Keys, the sax player for them, told me, he goes, "Man, you're working for the Rolling Stones, and he goes, don't blow this." He goes, "This is, he goes, you work for the Rolling, you're traveling with the Rolling Stones. This is like shitting in high cotton."
Now, how long did you work for the Stones, or with the Stones?
Well, I did 25 years of tours.
Damn.
So
Damn. And this was before you decided to get into veterinarian.
before, yeah.
Wow. So what's like with because I assume you worked with other bands as well, correct?
I worked for anybody that Barry Fay or Bill Graham put out between, say, 1968 and when I quit, when I got out of vet school. I came back and did some tours. I did just part of that the Victory tour with Michael Jackson, the Jackson 5 in '85. But by '85, I was pretty much done. I've gone back. I did the Wu-Tang in 2002.
I have heard this story about how the Wu-Tang basically called you out of retirement, or someone got you out of.
Well, I didn't. They didn't call me. Their bouncer did, and I'd worked with before, and he needed a crew of people, my cousins and people, people that we knew. We needed a crew of thumpers, and so. But it wasn't about bloody mouths. It was about not having bloody mouths. 9 out of 10 times, if I could talk to a guy and say, "Look, you can take me, but I'm going to go get a cop and they're going to arrest you. What are you doing? You're throwing bottles or you're dropping firecrackers on the crowd?"
Wait,
You
people
see,
have dropped firecrackers on crowds?
Well, yeah, they light lady fingers and drop them off the top. I mean, there's stuff that people do, and people are drinking with bottles, and then they drop the bottle, and then people are dancing barefoot. I mean, it's just oh, the problem is how loaded they are.
Yeah. What was your favorite that you can think of? What's like one of your the moments or the tours or the events or whatever happened? I was like, yo, this is something I'll remember in a good way for the rest of my life. And then we're gonna talk on the other side. What was something that was awful that you're like, I fucking hated this and this made me want to quit forever?
Well, I liked all of it, really.
Did you really?
Because, well, I mean, to travel and to be a little boy from Denver and get to see the world
Yeah,
and get to see the world on somebody else's dollar.
that's pretty
In,
cool.
in the beginning, with the Flying Burrito Brothers, I didn't even know how I was going to eat. So I went to Chris Hillman, the bass player, and I said, how do I eat? And he said, well, you just call room service. So, you get on room service and you go, well, I don't know, what's surf and turf? That looks pretty good. Maybe could they bring me a pie up to the room? I like pie, And so probably the bills are still coming in for some of those tours. And some of the people you would meet, each band had their own famous bouncer. Like Willie Nelson had Pootie Locke. And Pootie was so funny, and he knew every joke. And he would just go, hey, Kevin, how come Hitler didn't drink tequila? I go, I don't know. He goes, it made him mean.
Jesus
And
Christ.
just stuff like that. And you're a kid, and you're hearing this stuff, But I think one of my favorite times was Willie. Willie was so funny and so kind.
You got to work with Willie?
Yeah, Willie Nelson. It's just the best ever. The Rolling Stones are great, and different bands. You have your favorites and not so favorites, but they were great, but Willie was just so kind. I remember, he'd gone through a divorce and he'd lost a son and had all these different things in his life, and you never get to talk to the star. I'm just the bouncer. But I was standing looking at the crowd, and he came and stood next to me before the show, and I said, Willie, you've been through such a life. I mean, how do you do it? How do you do it? And he goes, well, Kevin, fortunately, we're not in control. And I always remember that, fortunately, we're not in control. It's out of our hands, You just try and lead a good life and see where the chips fall.
Interesting. Huh.
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
good.
And so funny too, you just go, you love to play golf and say, the best 2 balls I ever hit is when I stepped on a rake. That's old, but if you heard it in his voice, it's very funny.
So one of my goals is to see him before he stops playing. You know what I mean? And I have always wanted to see his show, and he just seems like a fascinating. Just his life. I mean, I went to Nashville a couple weeks ago with Josh, and we were doing Zanies, and we went to the Country Western Museum in Nashville, and it's crazy to see Willie Nelson's life from where he started to where he is now. Because like he didn't even look the same back in the day.
Well, no, he tried to be slick. He tried to be writes wonderful songs. Patsy Cline and everybody doing his songs, and it's songs that he wrote for other people, and then doing his own things, and being an outlaw with Tom Paul, and the Waylon Jennings, and being outside the normal Nashville hierarchy. But I mean, yeah, he's interesting. Wonderful books. His books are so funny and so touching. The Tower of Willie, and I got to meet Kinky Friedman through him.
Wow.
And Kinky had a band called the Texas Jew Boys, and all Jewish guys from Dallas and Austin, and God, they were great players.
It seems like Willie kind of created the music scene. Him and Waylon and those guys kind of created the music scene in Austin. That whole anti-industry sound of like I mean Willie was known for saying that he wanted his live shows to sound like, or his albums to sound like his live shows. That was something that he really tried to push for.
Well, I think Austin is a lot like New Orleans, where you're walking down, Sixth Street there, and the music is coming out of every bar,
Yeah.
and there's a live band, and all of them are great. And for me, man, make mine live. Live music, there's nothing like it compared to albums or records or tape. Getting to see the drummer with the sweat coming off him,
Yeah.
and trying to keep up with the singer, and standing close to the stage and having that bass bounce off your chest. That's one thing about bouncing that was great.
Wow. 25 years doing it. Who was the worst band you ever, not worst as in like they weren't good, but worst as in you hated working with them?
Oh, it's all good. I mean, they wouldn't be going out if they weren't good. It's just you wanted to be a rock and roll lion. You didn't want to do ma and pa duty. I mean, you'd rather go out with the Rolling Stones than Barry Manilow.
Oh, I got
But
what you're saying.
it was kind
I
of the
see
cut
what
of the
you're saying.
cards, and they told you who you'd go out with, and so. But you'd be surprised. I never was a big Bob Seger fan until I saw him live, and I realized how many hits he had. And his live show, man, oh man, in him live, it's something.
Wow.
I never was a big Bruce Springsteen fan until I worked for him, and I mean, a 3-hour show. Working for the Stones, they always said 90 minutes. Leave having the audience want more. 90 minutes.
That's
Leave
what Tommy
wanting more.
Chong told me. Yeah, like leave them wanting more, and then they'll buy more merch because they want to come hang out with you.
Tommy, I worked for Santana, and they were the opening act, Cheech and Chong.
Oh, wow.
And they didn't even they had gotten famous quickly, and they didn't even have the time, and they were doing so much silliness, but so funny. I love Tommy. In fact, I always thought Tommy stole my voice.
I've said this for years. I'm like, he sounds like Tommy Chong. If your eyes are closed, you can hear him when he says, "Hey, man." I can just hear you sound like Tommy Chong. Oh, that's funny. So then when it comes to bouncing, what makes a good bouncer? Like, what made you so good?
Because you pay attention to detail. You realize, you go out and walk through the place and realize, where can a kid sneak in here? Where could a kid get hurt here? What's the problem? Are they serving beer or are they not serving beer?
Yeah.
Are they serving it in glass bottles or are they not serving glass bottles? What's the distance to the stage? How high is the stage? The stage too high? Stages are too high. People have to look straight up. Is there a big wind tunnel between the audience and the crowd? That's not going to, between the audience and performer. They want to be there, but you need a barricade. Is the barricade big enough? Who are my bouncers that I'm hiring in this town? Are they motorcycle gangs and types of mutants, or are they football players? Or weight room idiots? What are they? So you're working with these guys, and they're looking to you for guidance. And if something happens, you have to know what to do. So it's like the Boy Scouts. Being prepared is the whole thing.
Wow. Sorry, I'm writing a note down. So all of that stuff comes with doing it so many times. How do you adjust though? So like, you're going through all of these things, and obviously that's what keeps a person in this business for a while, is this knowledge you have. You can walk into a venue, see what's going on, but do you have control over, like, you can't fix things. You just got to have this in your brain knowing, okay, I got to be aware.
Oh, no, you can fix things. We did the Sunsplash in Jamaica and the World Jamaica Music Festival. World Jamaica Music Festival was the end of a peninsula, and it was the Bob Marley Performing Arts Center at the end of this peninsula. And but there were 3 sides of water, and then we, at the top end of the peninsula, where it started, we had a gate and a fence, but then there was just sand all the way down, so kids could swim in.
Oh.
I was afraid kids would swim in once it got dark. It was about 400 yards, of the seating until the stage. So maybe longer, maybe 2,000 yards. And so I didn't want them swimming in. So I bought 2 dead horses with my friend Chuck Grant, and a chainsaw, and we got a little boat, and we went out and we chopped up the horses and their guts and put their intestines in the blood in the water to attract sharks, so the kids would see the sharks and see us doing it, so they wouldn't swim in. Nobody swam in.
What? And they were just cool with that? They were like, oh, yeah, good call, Kev. Nice.
What could they do? We already did it.
That's, God damn.
You know, it's easier to ask for forgiveness than to ask for permission. So you know, we did it, you know.
Wow. Now you got to hire different bouncers from each place. You're the head guy, so you travel around. But
we travel with a few guys from the band or a few guys from that promoter, but we got to hire the guys in that town. And after a while, you know the crews in the different towns. You know who to call, you know. And so you know, and you get good guys. You get good guys, and so, but no, I think it'd be so difficult to be doing it now because of the concealed carry, you know. I mean, you know, it's legal. Guys got a license to carry a gun.
The bouncers do, or the audience?
No, the crowd.
The crowd, yeah.
You know, we started putting at the end of the time I was doing it, they started to put in metal detectors. But I just worry so much about, you know, if somebody at one of these big national events, the Super Bowl, or you know, the national college football championship or something, or any big thing, you know, that look at that, what happened in the shootings in Las Vegas. You know, I just, it would be very hard to do this now. It was an easy day. We didn't know in my time, we didn't know what would happen when we put 70,000 kids in a place, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But mainly it was that, you know, do we have enough Santalets? Do we have enough bathrooms? You know, do we have medical people for them if they step on glass, if they're OD? You know, what do we have happening here?
Yeah. Were you working during which festival was it where Hell's Angels were the bouncer or like head of security?
That was Rolling Stones. That was my boss Tony Funches, and so that was that was Altamont, you know.
And that's where shit like hit the fan. Were you working that festival?
The Altamont. A little. I did. I worked with Tony. He hired me. The '69 tour. It was a summer of love, you know.
Right.
And Woodstock happened, you know, in August, and so that was supposed to be a free concert. And so it was supposed to be in Golden Gate Park in San Francisco. But they couldn't get the permit for it, so they moved to a speedway, and the Grateful Dead had always used, and Jefferson Airplane had always used the Hell's Angels as bouncers and paid them, you know, in beer and T-shirts and whatever, and so that,
so they got real top-notch talent for that.
So but they were friendly with them, and it worked, you know, but that was 250,000 people, and so and. Here's the problem. You can't have cops do it. You can't have uniformed police. You know, you can't have, if something happens in the crowd, you can't have uniformed police go in because they don't know what happened and they immediately are on the side of the kid. They don't know that he just threw a bottle at the stage and hit a girl in the front row in the back of the head with a bottle, you know?
Right.
And you need good guys. You need good bouncers. You don't need thugs. You need, you know, big, gentle guys. If something happened, they could deal with it. But they aren't punchaholics. You know, just sneaking punches. You know, like when I worked for the Wu-Tang. What do? The Wu-Tang's a loose federation of the people. You know, of 9 different rappers, and they each have their own bouncer. They each have their own entourage. They each have their own family with them. You know. So you know, you got to be careful. And what I used to do is go to the chief of police in the town, and the cops can be a problem. The cops can, you know, a badge isn't a ticket.
Sure.
And you can have every off-duty policeman in the city with his badge and his kids, and you only have so many seats. And the cop at the door is going to let in his brother policeman. So I'd go to the police and I'd say, look, we're paying you. Here's so many tickets for policemen and their family, but don't embarrass me and have, you know, people come in. And they would also give, you know, a donation to the Widows and Orphans Fund or whatever from the band and said, the Wu-Tang supports the police.
Oh,
And they're like, the
wow.
Wu-Tang supports the police? I don't know if the Wu-Tang supports the police. But that way, if something happens, we try to show respect.
Yeah.
So then if the guy who's working the mixing board gets caught with a joint and they're going to put him in jail, I go, oh, Officer O'Shea, I need that guy. We
Right.
try, and so there's so much to it, but it trained me for the rest of my life with people skills and how to be prepared and being ready for what happened and to anticipate, deal with something before it happens rather than after.
Sure.
What's the worst thing that can happen here? And try and get ready for that and try and make sure it doesn't happen. I mean, you can live your life being prepared or live your life always picking up the pieces, right? You can do two ways, and both of them work. So
Wow.
I don't know.
What is in all of your travels with working with various bands? Is there anything you got written down there that you're like, yo, this is a story that this is something that needs to be heard? Is there something that you've done that like has really just might raise the hairs on someone?
Well,
I'm sure that's all subjective, of course.
I'm writing a book.
Oh, yeah.
And it's going to come out, I don't know, hopefully within the next year.
Okay.
And so there's all these stories. But, before I die, it's a great thing because at least I got all my stuff written down.
Smart.
But the weirdest thing I ever did was I was working for a black band, and I got to the first night. It was a husband and wife, and I won't say their name, but they got divorced the night that I got there, and the tour broke up, and I didn't have anywhere to go. And so I called up Bill Graham. Bill Graham was my boss at the time, putting the tours together, a rock promoter. You heard of Bill Graham, and so he said, "Well, we need security just for a little while. You can go back to school, but I got a Billy Graham tour." And I go, "Billy Graham, the evangelist, needs security?" And I go, "Yeah." So I went with a friend of mine, Chuck Grant, to do the Billy Graham tour, and they would bring out all these lesser evangelists first. And they would do some healing and stuff and talk to the crowd. The people would talk in tongues. But the people would start to talk in tongues in the crowd and go crazy and run toward the stage, to jump on the stage. We had just gotten done with a Grateful Dead tour. So when the people ran toward the stage, we thought they were on acid or whatever the hell, ibogaine, or who knew what they ate. So Chuck Grant started clotheslining these people. And then would step on their neck, so they wouldn't get up. In the business, you try and you try and do it. So we, oh man. So
wait, so we're in like a Christian environment or like a church environment,
right? He's dropping these people right and left, and so
you've been saved, wham.
So I said, oh baby, don't, he goes, and he looked at me and goes, "Look at this guy's eyes. He's high on something." And I go, "He's high on the real thing. He's high on Jesus and his shoe shine. He's not high on."
He's not high on acid.
Brent,
yeah.
Can we stop and start again?
From the top?
No, I just they just called me. I just got to call the hospital about a C-section I got to do.
Yep, call the hospital.
And so I can call you right back?
Yep.
How are we doing? Is this all right?
We're doing great, man. We're doing excellent.
Is it interesting?
Oh, it's the best, for sure. For sure.
All right.
Yeah.
I'm going to hang up from you and I'll get okay?
All right, you got it, buddy.
All right.
All right. Well, that was a quick ending to our chat with Dr. Kev. We'll probably have him for part number 2 here in just a little bit, but fascinating stuff here. Dr. Kev, man, he is a whole new animal that, or he's an old school animal that we don't have anymore. We don't have these kind of people in our life anymore and in our world. So it's good that he's still around to talk to us about his life. Hopefully we get him back here in just a little bit and we'll click back in. But in the meantime, we'll see you there. And thanks again for tuning in. We'll see you next time, everybody, on Comedians in Quarantine. Okay, here we go. let me start recording.
How many minutes was that?
That was an hour and 10, hour 20, something like that. Let me turn you sideways. Hold on. And you turn yourself around. That's what it's all about. Rotate 180 degrees. There we go. Perfect. There you are. Well, let's wrap this up. There we go. Let's wrap this up. We're back with Dr. Kev. You were just getting into your book, and now I want to know about this book and where can people find it. Just tell me that stuff. Let's get a nice bow at the end of this, and then we'll call.
Well, I got to come back because we didn't talk about comedy, so we have to do another 90 minutes sometime.
I'm into that. We can talk 90 minutes of comedy.
We didn't talk about my philosophy of humor, baby. And no, we gotta do it. And the nuts and bolts of stand up that I've learned in 35 years.
Hey, we can do part 2. I got no problem with that.
We gotta do that. Because when I started, I don't even know what I was doing. I mean, it's stuff like I was a chicken act.
I don't know what that means.
Well, I had these 2 trained chickens, and I noticed I was trying to teach myself the accordion. Here, I'll do it this way.
You're definitely making a joke, though. Yeah, that's better.
And I had these chickens, and I was trying to teach myself how to play the accordion. And I noticed that one of my chickens, if I played the accordion, he would stomp his feet. He didn't like it. And so I
Wait, this is real? You literally played with live chickens?
Yeah, so I go down to the Comedy Works for amateur night, and I called it Chick Fowler and Jackie Davis, and I was Chick Fowler, and the chicken was Jackie Davis. So
what?
I would wear a fringe jacket, and I put some tinsel on his wings with just a drop of crazy glue, and he would move his wings, and the tinsel would move, and I would move my arms and play the accordion, but it never worked. And the crowd didn't like it. I don't think they could see him well enough. Then I would go, folks, I know you love me, and I know you come out to see us, but I know the real star of the show is Jackie Davis Jr. And then I had a little tiny chicken in my pocket, a little chick, and he'd run around the stage. But we were doing George McKelvey's Comedy Club.
In Aurora, right?
Yeah, well, yeah, and we were doing that and downtown. And one night, the chicken jumped into somebody's drink, had to be rescued, the little chicken. And then
they put the kibosh on that.
Yeah, it didn't work. He goes, "What? Could somebody catch a disease from your act?" And so,
the bird flu.
Yeah, so people say now, I can't do my act, because there's no crowds, but I'm used to doing my act to no crowds.
That's not true. I've been to your shows.
I'm used to. So I got to get rid of the chickens. The last time I heard, they were living in Colorado Springs.
Oh, they're still around? 35-year-old chickens? Good Lord.
I hope they're alive.
Those things must be fucking massive at this point.
But so the book, it starts out, it's called A Wild Life. It'd be my life in 5 acts, grown up Irish in Denver, then bouncing stories, and then veterinary medicine stories, and then the philosophy of humor in my act, and the evolution of laughter, why people laugh, and how come, how did laughing start? Do animals laugh? That's in there. And do
you think animals laugh?
Oh, I know they do.
Wow.
Chimpanzees, they huff when they're playing. They make this noise they don't make any other time. And it signals that it's play and that they're not serious, not fighting. And so we're so close, 99.9% same genes. Not 99.9, but 99% same genes. So we got that from them. Gorillas do a similar thing. They make this this huffing sound.
Uh-huh.
Dogs elicit a noise. When you tickle rats, they elicit a high-pitched thing that we can't hear. so that they let you know they enjoy it. So yeah, other animals laugh for sure. And can other animals, feel joy? I don't know. They're smarter than we think. I saw an amazing thing with, Coco. My a classmate of mine, Frank Talamontes, was working and teaching a gorilla sign language for the deaf.
I remember
And
that one. Yeah.
and they asked Coco, name something soft, and she showed a pillow. And then they said, name something hard, and she made the sign for work. That work was hard. And they must have just fallen down on the floor, So, yeah, so what we see, then the philosophy of comedy, and then endangered species stuff. And we talked about some of it.
What is your philosophy on comedy?
But I think life is hard, and I think comedy is humor. Is a form. Comedy is a form of humor. There's comedians and comedy, and then there's like humor and a humorist. I think for me, humor is Will Rogers, and it tickles your fancy, but the words are different. It tickles, but humor in comedy kills.
Okay.
A comedian kills.
Okay.
And so somebody's tickled by a humorous thing, but a comedy kills. And I think comedians, people say, why do you do stand up? And it's not why you do stand up. It's that we have to. As comedians.
It's an addiction, dude. I've been saying this.
It's not an addiction.
You don't think so?
No, it's genetic. There's something wrong with comedians. There's something wrong with us. Michael Florwax, God bless him, he came up with it first that I ever heard, and he said, there's something wrong with us. And I go, what do you mean? He goes, 99% of the population, Psychology Today magazine, I saw this last week, the number one fear of the American public is public speaking. Yeah. And so we want to get out there and do it. So if you see somebody, you're in the green room and somebody's going over their time on stage and the other guy's dying. He's going, hey, shit, he's eating into my time. He's kicking the stall like a horse trying to get out there to the Kentucky Derby. He wants to get out there. So, what is wrong with us? 99% of the people say their biggest fear is public speaking. We want to get out there. And so, but the biggest, for me, for comedy, the biggest secret is the crowd is on your side. They want you to be funny. They don't want to go out there and see somebody struggle and die.
Sure. Yeah, that's
fair.
They
want to laugh. They want to be entertained. They want you to be funny. And so part two, we're going to talk about.
I never thought about that, actually. And that makes total sense. Like, no one wants to see you
they're
fail.
like a mirror. They're like a mirror. If you're confident, they're confident. If you put something up tentative and go, oh, I hope you like this, they come back tentative,
Yeah.
So you want them to bite, man. You want them to bite on it. You want them to beat them, shake them like a dog, But I think the Rolling Stones are right. I think leave wanting them more. I think Tommy Chong's right. I think people can stay too long.
I think so too. And you'll hear a lot of club owners talk about how, no one wants to watch you for fucking 3 hours or 2 hours.
Nobody's that interesting. And that's why this podcast for me, this is good for people that have just found out that they've got 3 weeks to live, because 1 minute of listening to me will seem like 10 years.
Well, I'm going to,
show this podcast to the dying, because it'll be helpful to them, because it will seem like they're living longer.
They're going to watch this and be like, I don't understand why you're doing this to me. I only have 3 weeks to live.
That's right. And why did you bring Gandalf on?
Tommy Chong version of Gandalf.
Who's that old guy? He looks like Wilford Brimley.
You're way less fat than Wolford. You got a much better hairline than old Wolford.
So I've been talking to these publishers, and so we'll know it's not. I don't have no deal yet. And so many of our comic friends have come up with books, and good books. Adam Caton Holland has won awards. His book is so touching about his sister and about the tragedy of national epidemic of suicide. in the young people, and elderly. Uh, uh, Brett Tobler. Brent Tobler has his wonderful book. I think Sam Tallent's coming out with one.
Yeah.
So there's so many books, and so people have something to say. I think so hopefully, I don't know if I have something to say, but we'll see.
I feel like you will. I feel like you have a lot more to say than
Well, we didn't touch
some
what I
other
wanted to
people.
talk about. I really wanted to talk about comedy. I've been so shut in, so I've been writing jokes, and so you got to hear some of the new jokes.
Let's hear your new jokes real quick.
All right.
Dude, also too, I will make sure that I get you booked on our Digital Boulder comedy show, because we're doing Digital Boulder comedy shows while we're in quarantine. And so I'll be sure to get you.
Well, I'd love to. I think people forget about me. I think people forget I'm part of this family too. I'm the oldest working Denver comic by decades, except for my brother John Novosad. And John is so funny. But I think I got my moments.
Is he older than you?
No, I'm much older than John.
Okay, that's what I thought.
I think I got 5 on John.
Oh, wow.
But yeah. So this is Mr. Thompson, and so my dog thinks she's named after my computer password.
God damn it! Oh,
right?
Boy. I
so that's
find my list here so I can add you to my list, because this ain't gonna work if I can't add you to the list. There you are. So
then I went to a restaurant. And they had complimentary bread. And as soon as I sat down, the bread said, "You look amazing. You're so smart. You have kind eyes." The bread was very complimentary.
God damn it.
The virus is making everybody nervous, and even my comfort food is anxious.
Jesus Christ.
My last girlfriend dropped breadcrumbs to find her way out of our relationship.
Put a star by that one. That's a keeper.
What?
That's my favorite one yet.
And so, what else I got? What did I put on this morning? Let's see. Oh, okay. When I was young, I was homeschooled. My fondest memory is my mother saying, "Okay, class starts as soon as Price is Right is over."
As soon as the showcase showdown wraps.
Why was Noah a bad fisherman?
Why?
He only had 2 worms.
I don't know if I get that. Oh, that makes sense. Male and a female. I get it.
Of every species.
That's true. That had to have been a large boat.
That's right. So what else do I got? I got the poor. You never see on the airplanes a possum as a
emotional support animal.
You never see them as an emotional support animal, because as they get on, their boarding pass says possum, but their passport says opossum. All right, you have to go far for that joke.
Yeah.
My girlfriend not only finishes my sentences, she starts them.
I like your girlfriend jokes, I think, the most.
Among the dinosaurs, there weren't climate deniers, but there were comet deniers.
Okay.
The early computers were so big because dinosaurs had to use them.
Say it again?
The early computers were so large because dinosaurs had to use them.
Okay.
And you know what? Acupuncture doesn't work for butterflies. They stick these pins in them.
Uh-huh.
Okay. All right.
And they pin them up for like art now.
That's all I got.
Have you seen those butterflies that are like in frames? That shit's crazy.
You ought to see my house.
You have some?
I got dozens of them.
Oh, you just
on the
hate
walls.
butterflies, huh?
You want to see them?
Yeah, show me one of them.
All right. I got to apologize. I don't think this has been very interesting to you.
To me?
Yeah.
Why would you say that?
Oh, I just have a hunch.
Okay. I would say that this second part might have been a little tighter, but look at those. And all of those died where? At the Botanic Garden or something? Or like where did you acquire these?
These are from the Butterfly Pavilion in Fort Lauderdale, in Key West. See all
Okay,
these?
gotcha. Damn. And they just die, and then they go swoop them up.
They pick them up. They apparently some of them only live for 1 to 3 days. So.
The butterflies?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, that form. The caterpillar's longer. They're getting big, and then they just breed as butterflies, and then they die.
So they spend their whole life just waiting to fuck, and then they fuck, and they're like, yes, I'm out.
That's what I'm waiting to do.
Well, don't fuck too soon. We don't want to lose you.
Well, if I die, I won't have enough money for a tombstone. They're just going to bury me with my head out.
This was him.
And when my father died, he said, open that window. He was on his deathbed. He said, get my bow and arrow. And so I did. And he said, now I'm going to shoot the arrow out the window, and wherever it lands, I want you to bury me. So we buried him above the closet. Are you getting any of these? I'm working hard.
I'm getting all of these. This is not the Boulder Comedy Show. This is just the video podcast. The Boulder Comedy Show Sunday.
These are just extra for you.
These are just bonus jokes. Okay.
Yeah.
All right,
Doc.
well, thanks, buddy.
I got to come back because I got 9. We didn't even. We did a lot about conservation.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to talk about.
And we talked mainly about the virus for the first 45 minutes.
I know. Well,
and talked about viruses. So hopefully it's interesting to people, and I really appreciate it. I love you, and I love working with you, and I loved being on your podcast.
Well, thanks for doing it. I will definitely have you back. We can talk comedy. I try to avoid comedy on this show, which sounds really weird, but it's because I talked to Stephen AJ about being a D1 athlete. I talked to Rachel Weeks about Magic the Gathering. I want to hear about the other side of people's comedy lives. I know about their comedy life.
Yeah, but I think nobody's looked into it like we should.
Looked into conservation or looked into our comedy?
Into our comedy. Here, I got here. Just listen to this, and then this will give you a little taste of what we should be doing. Okay?
Okay.
Yeah, hang on one second. I'm just gonna find this from my little book, and
wait, is your book an audio book?
No, but I'm gonna read it, and I think with my voice, they'll think it's Tommy Chong. Here we go. Yeah, here we go. I found it. Okay, now. When I was bouncing, I worked for George Burns. Okay, they hired him to do comedy, and they needed one bouncer to keep people away from him. He was old, and he didn't want to get bumped.
That's fair.
He really didn't need a bouncer. He just needed somebody, to
like
be there.
A buffer, if you will.
Yeah. So I was in awe of him, and we were in the dressing room, just the two of us. And I said, "Mr. Burns, you've seen it all: vaudeville, radio, movies, television. What's the secret of comedy?" And George Burns said there's only 5 jokes. He said there's a current event joke where something's happening, you write a joke about that. He said there's a sex joke where you're stripping somebody or somebody's stripping your wife. Don't do those, they're offensive. He said there's an ethnic joke where you're making fun of somebody. He goes, what are you? You're Irish? He goes, you can do any Irish joke, I can't. He goes, I'm Jewish, I can do any Jewish joke, you can't.
Sure.
And they said the best kind of joke is the 4th kind. And he said it's a self-deprecating joke where you make fun of yourself and draw the ire of the audience onto yourself. And he said, like, you know, you wear glasses, you can make fun of yourself wearing glasses, you can do whatever. And I said, well, what's the 5th kind? He goes, boat axe. I go, boat axe? He goes, oh, yeah. A guy on a cruise ship, he's got a guitar, or he's got a talking duck, or he's a ventriloquist, he's got some gimmick. He goes, boat axe. So I thought that's really kind of true. Maybe George Burns is right. There's only 5 jokes.
Boat axe. I like how that was the last one. So because that's that's fucking. What is a boat axe doing that doesn't fall under the first four categories?
Well, he's got some gimmick, you know. He's a juggler, or he's a knife thrower, or he's, you know.
So he's not a comedian. He is a entertainer.
Well, that's what you're talking about. The difference between a humorist, you know. I like to watch these guys, or you read all these books. There's a lot of the humorists write books. You know, they're entertaining and they're nice. I mean, a lot of my jokes are probably humorous types of things where, you know, the audience goes, they don't like guffaw at it, you know, but it's they like it. They go, I find that mildly amusing, you know. I haven't worked in 2 weeks, and audiences have been delighted.
So then what are you? What kind of jokes do you tell according to George Burns?
Oh, I probably do jokes from my life, you know, the veterinary jokes and stuff, and some jokes, I think, current event, you know. The best kind of jokes, comedy is so much like boxing. You know, it's the misdirection joke where you don't see it coming.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
I think those are the jokes. And for me, there's 2 kinds of jokes. When I watch other comics, there's the jokes I go, oh God, I wish I had that joke. I wish I had that joke. Or there's the joke where I watch do the joke and I go, I couldn't have written that joke
if I try. Yeah.
In a million years with a million monkeys and a million typewriters all typing. That joke wouldn't have come.
Those are my favorite jokes, because then you're just sitting back and just like, damn, fuck.
Yeah, Roger Rittenhouse.
Really?
Roger Rittenhouse or Zach Reiner. No.
Yeah. Those guys write some, but those are both super quick joke writers. But like you see some people that have like these long bits, like a Kyle Kinane type bit, and you're like, damn, I never would have put that.
You're
together.
you're ruining the drama. You know, that's all about my book and what we'll talk about on the next podcast.
Oh,
you know,
good.
Because there's one-liners or there's stories. The problem with the story is, do you want 20 sentences of build-up for one punchline? You know, I mean, it's clever.
True, but that's where you have to have punches up in the middle of it.
Yeah, you have clever stuff all the way, but still, that fills me with inertia.
Interesting.
Yeah, I like to see the guy throw the punch, man. You know, and you're on to the next thing. My problem is I came up through a new talent way where I started in 1986, and I didn't get on the regular schedule till 1993, and I worked every week with Troy Baxley. We started the same night, and Wendy didn't put us on for years.
Yeah.
And so I came up with a new talent thing where you only have 3 minutes, maybe 1 minute, maybe 2, maybe 5 if you're lucky. You know. And so I had to have a one-liner style because I came up with that. I wanted to get as many jokes as I could into 3 minutes.
Interesting.
And I still suffer from that because I can't tell stories, you know.
So, but don't you think though that because I can't tell short jokes, like one-liners, like those are hard for me. Like I don't even know how to get in or out of them.
Well, you don't even worry about it. You know, like me and Zach Reiner, there's
You
no
just
segue.
right, exactly.
There's no. It's just bam. Here's another one. Here's another
Exactly.
one.
But
My jokes, it's like feeding baby birds. It's like here's one, here's one, here's one. I just jam it down their throat.
But don't you think though that the because of how comedy is right now, in this day and age, right, where for a while there, comics were expected to do a new hour every year, like they were almost trying to they were Louis and Burr and fucking all these other comics that were Kevin Hart were putting out new specials each year. It kind of in my mind it kind of changed the approach to joke writing in that, well, if I can tell one story for 10 minutes, I only need 6 new stories. Because I gotta put out.
That's very lazy.
But it's also realistic because
No.
what you think you can write 150 new jokes a year?
No, I disagree with you. You know, do you have to change your jokes all the time? You know, yes, it's best if you do. You know, but you know, we saw Jackie Mason, who never did the same act twice. Okay, and always had new stuff, but then could fall flat. We see Gilbert Gottfried, who the rap against him is his jokes. It doesn't change him. But you know, I'm old. Many of my jokes, they're so old that you know I've done them so long. They're hieroglyphs on the side of the pyramid. You know, the pharaohs used them. You know, oh, that Fitzgerald, he's funny as hell. That guy, incredible. Go down to the marketplace and get some papyrus and write down his jokes. But
scribe them down.
I think you should come up with new stuff. You should mix it up. You try new things. I think the good thing about comedy. Oh, you still there?
Oh yeah.
The good thing about comedy is there's enough places at the table for all of us. It's you know, there can be boat acts, and there can be talking chickens, and there can be, you know, storytellers, and there can be one-liner guys, and you can do it all within your same act too. Mm-hmm. You know, you can tell a story and let the checks come out. You know, and let them, you know, they don't have to concentrate so hard. But you know, my personal opinion is I don't think anybody's interesting enough to listen to for 90 minutes. You know, I think probably about 50 minutes, because when I worked for the Rolling Stones, Keith Richards always said, everybody has one song in them. No matter what song I write, I can hear satisfaction in it, you know. And I think we have the same joke in us. We write the same kind of joke again and again, you know. And so if you watch some of the people with their delivery, you know, if they just do the twist, you know, the joke comes at the end. And if you do that again and again and again, it gets tiresome to the audience for a long set.
Like watching Anthony Jeselnik. I love watching him, but I find myself trying to get to the joke before he does.
Well, you see the trick. You see, you know, George Burns said it best, you know, the joke telling is an illusion, you know, and you know, you're trying to pull him in and have him concentrate, but you can burst the illusion if people are trying to already think about what the next joke is, you know, then that makes it tough. You know, they're trying to see what the punch is. But no, you're right. So this is the type of stuff we talk about next time.
Okay, sounds good to me.
What do you think? I tried to be interesting, but you know, I'm
you're just fine. I promise you, my audience will find you fascinating. Don't worry. Why do you think it was boring?
Because many things that are interesting to me, I don't know if they're interesting to other people.
Yeah, but that's why I asked about them. If they're not interesting to me, then I would have just been like, okay, and then let's talk about this.
Okay.
You know what I mean? That's why I wanted to ask you those coronavirus things, because people want to know: can you get it in an animal? Can it no one really knows.
Well, that's right, and so I think you know, the main thing for people with that right now is facts, not fear. Don't panic.
Yeah,
we're gonna get through this. And you know, we'll get through it. And so, but thank you so much for having me.
You're so welcome.
And you know, I think that I've been real lucky to have friends like you. So
Oh,
thank
but
you. Thank
well,
you.
I've been lucky to have people to look up to, like you, who've been doing it for fucking ever, and it's good to see, how many different ways that you can stay creative and stay funny, and how you can fucking stay current, and it's pretty cool.
Hey, wait a minute. The Tourette's parade is going by my house. Oh, what do we want? A cure for Tourette's. When do we want it? Shit.
That's what we're gonna end on right there. Dr. Kevin Fitzgerald, thank you so much. I appreciate you joining in, and we'll be back for part 2 next time. And in the meantime, go C-sect that dog.
All right, buddy.
All right, man.
Thank you so much. And so we got to do a part 2 because I got so much to tell you.
I'm in.
All right.
I'm in. All right.
I got. I mean, just the history of comedy stuff. So I go through the whole history of stand-up, and it's great. We could do some of that, and then how to write a joke, and what jokes work and what don't. Oh man, I could teach a college class on it. I worked so hard on these 3 chapters. In fact, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get you a copy of the book before it's just where it is now.
Cool. That sounds great.
And if you would read it, I gave a copy to Adam to see what he thought, but I haven't heard from him.
Well, he's got a brand new baby.
He's got enough going on.
Yeah, he's got a lot going on. So
I like babies. I don't know if I could eat a whole one.
I know. Not even. I mean, it's not even as good as veal, to be honest. All right, buddy. We'll talk to you soon. Thanks for calling back, and go wash your hands. Go stay safe out there.
Thank you.
All right, buddy. We'll see you soon. Later. There he was, everyone. Dr. Kevin Fitzgerald. He was on the show, and we were happy to have him. There we go. Let's get that off of there. So such an interesting life, and now I'm excited to talk to him more about comedy. It kind of makes me feel like I should talk more about comedy on this channel. I always think that no one wants to hear comedians talking about comedy because that's all we do. And I'm fascinated in everything that's outside of comedy that they do. Because we have some really interesting lives, you know what I mean? So, but let me know what you think. If you love it, if you don't love it, who knows? Shoot me an email at the Brent Gill EP, @gmail, and let's chat about it. In the meantime, thanks for coming. Stay safe. Wash your hands. Corona crew, we are out. Deuces. Yeah. Here's the music. It wasn't planned, and we're done recording.